Tom, you don't have to be the biggest. Focus on the best and focus on profitability. I don't need to be the largest restoration company. I want to be the best restoration company. I used to always tell people no is not in my vocabulary. So if somebody said I couldn't do something, I would automatically just do it.
Number one issue in the industry right now is finding good people, and it's not even close.
If you really took a deep dive into some of the most successful people in our world, they've given up something to get there. The business was still Tom Laska, right? It was all my hard work and energy.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Violand's GPS podcast, Growing Professional Skills, where we interview business owners, managers, thought leaders within the trades, primarily in restoration and plumbing. And we try and learn a few lessons along the way. We hear their stories, what they learned, what they wish they would have done better, what they can help you with. And hopefully you pick up a couple nuggets from each of these sessions. Really excited about my guest. He's one of the people I've known the longest in the disaster restoration industry. He is the founder, owner, president, and grand poobah of ICC Restoration up in Woodbury, Minnesota, Mr. Tom Laska. Tom, thank you for joining us on the session today.
Thank you for having me, Jeff. It's always nice to see you.
I believe that. I believe that wholeheartedly. You know, it's funny, when I think about people I know in the restoration industry, I can usually pinpoint the exact place and roughly the year that I first met them. In your case, I can't. I think I've just always known you somehow, that you have just always been there. And that says a lot for how long you've been in the restoration industry and how involved you've been both within your own company, within the industry, and your community. So we're excited to have you.
Wonderful. I'm excited to be here.
All right. So for people who don't know Tom, you were pretty young when you started ICC. I believe you were a young father at that point. What gave you the confidence? What got you into the industry and told you at 21 years old you could make this happen?
Well, quick story behind it was I was actually working for a person that I'd met when I was young, and he had a carpet cleaning company. So I went to work for him. Then I had my son when I was at 18 years old, and then I actually got full custody of him when I was 19. So here I was, single dad, full-time father, was working for that other company, and I decided if I can do it here, I can do it on my own. I talked with 3 of our clients at the time, and they were all very receptive, and they were kind of like, it's about time, Tom. We were waiting for you to do this. And I never looked back. I had great help with my son, with my mom, my grandparents, because obviously, even back in the day when I was cleaning carpets, there were times when I would clean all day, and then I would come home for a couple hours and then go back out and clean all night. And did that for about a year and a half. So yeah, so it's a fun story and just a lot of hard work and a good support team behind me.
I think the best reason to have kids is because the child labor laws are a lot more lax when they're your own kids. So I like that philosophy. I like how you had the kid first, so they were a little bit older. They were 2, 3 years old at that point, so they could start helping out. That's
Yes.
a good strategy. I hope people take that one and run with it.
Exactly. When my grandparents were watching my son, I made my mom come to work with me as well.
Oof. I'm hearing the cash registers ring right there, buddy. That's all profit right there.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly. So, yeah.
When you think back to those early days of ICC, however many years ago that was, you know, what was your original goal? What was your original vision of what this product or this company was going to be? Was it, I just need a paycheck? Or was it, I could build a family business here, I can build a legacy? And how's that compared to what you have today?
Boy, I tell you what, back then, I think it was all about sheer survival. I always had a no quit instinct in my person, right? And so I think back then when I was cleaning carpets and I was just working hard. I mean, if it was there, I wasn't sure how the business was going to start when it did, and literally the day I opened the doors, I never slowed down, and so that was a lot different, than what was expected from the other company that I had worked for. So, and then having Chris in the background, that's pretty much what it was just pure survival. I don't think I was thinking anything beyond carpet cleaning at the time, especially right when I started. So. Then I remember getting into water damage early on, and there was a condominium place that's on the river that's close to us, and it was the second water loss with a sprinkler head break. And I remember sitting on the staircase it's like a three-story building, right? And I remember sitting there going, well, man, I'm sure good at tearing these things apart and drying them out. I should really start thinking about putting them back together. And that was when it all changed. And I said, okay, it's game on. Let's give it a whirl. So there it is, and here I am today.
So you were cleaning carpets. You came across the opportunity, and it was a dollar sign type thing of how I'm going to grow this business. And suddenly, you're a restoration company.
I think if you want to call it that, sure. I think in my world it was more just like again, what can I do to just do more for the client, right? Why just dry it up and walk away? And so again, I was in my younger when I was a young child, my grandfather's around, and so I was very blessed to learn a lot of things from him. So kind of I'm what jack of all trades, master of none, and have been very blessed to be able to learn a lot of that stuff as a young boy. So that day, that moment on that staircase, I knew I could do it because I had a lot of that, a lot of the repair skills and things behind me already. So it just felt like a natural choice, and there we go.
So you get into it. You've got bigger services, you've got bigger bills. You're going to have to bring on more people. You got to bring on more equipment, more overhead. At some point, we're not, and I don't mean this derogatory, but we're no longer a chuck in the truck out there cleaning carpet and making a good living and having a nice little business for yourself, but you're becoming a larger scale company with employees, with families, with significant payroll. At what point did this start to feel like this is a real company? This is a real something that I'm building that's going to potentially get to the next level.
Boy, that's a really tough question there because again, I don't know what it was. I remember getting up to around 10 employees, and honestly, I don't remember even saying this business is going to grow, right? I just don't think that was ever. It just again, you got to remember, I'm still a father. I'm still young. I'm just literally trying to grow little bits and pieces here, and so I don't think I ever had that vision like most do, right? When they start out, that like, hey, I'm going to be here in 5 years, right? This is exactly where I want to be in 5 years.
Yeah.
I just need to be exactly right here and keep making money so I can support my family. So yeah, it's kind of a different question for me.
So early on, the philosophy was more show up and try and outwork everybody.
Yeah, I agree. I did really good at that. I think that was one of the things. I had always been built to work, probably for survival. But I am one of those stories, right? Work hard and you can get somewhere. And if you just continue to persevere, you're going to get somewhere. And even when times get tough, in my world, it was if times are tough, work harder and and work through it. And so I think, yeah, back in that day, right, when some of the employees were coming on, I was still out there, and I still am today. To the detriment of that, I enjoy being out in the field. I enjoy challenges. So I think that was always a good piece for my company, that they could see me, that I was working right alongside them, day and night. So yeah, I think that was part of the success.
Was there a moment then that came along where you looked at it and said, okay, do I want to keep putting in 80, 90, 100 hours a week? Do I want to keep busting my knees and my back? Or do I want to get some people in here that can do this and I can focus on more strategic stuff? I can start focusing on culture. Was there a day where you just woke up and said, I enjoy being out on the job site, but maybe I need to be somewhere else a little bit more at this point?
I'm gonna probably say I'm a boy. That's a tough one because again, I think that might be one of my biggest downfalls, right? Is because I enjoy being out there. And so to say that I made a conscious decision overnight, I don't think is true. I think as the restoration industry kind of continued to evolve, right, I started to have to question how much am I going to spend out in the field? How much am I going to spend working on the business? And through finally, I was always by myself and kind of always did my own thing, and started to get some consulting way back in the day. And that was one of the things that I think maybe somewhat transformed me a little bit. They wanted me to change a few things, like stop being on call. You shouldn't be on call. You have good people to take care of that. And so I've tried to take some of that, and it's still been a challenging balance for me, because again, if something's unique out there, I've been blessed, right? I say I've been blessed to be able to go out, look at a complex problem, and resolve it. And so sometimes sitting in your office, you just don't get that anymore, and that's just still a thrill to me. So, but more and more, yes, more and more over probably the last couple of years, I've really tried to stay focused on good growth. Again, the culture, the people around me. So I've really had to push off kind of being in the field portion of it. So it's been challenging at best for me.
Did you get to a point maybe with that where you thought, you know what, maybe I don't need to grow a bigger company. Maybe I do want to keep it small because I really enjoyed the job site more than I enjoy my desk?
I think that's been part of it, right? I mean, I've always tried to stay focused within my own business, right? So there's always a lot of noise, and you'd hear other companies around you, and so then you'd get all energized, like I got to be bigger and better than them, and again, kind of through that some of that those consulting years, right? It was always just like, Tom, you don't have to be the biggest. Focus on the best, and focus on profitability, right? You can have a nice, small, medium-sized business, whatever you want to call it, but really focus there. And so that's kind of been one of the things that I always talk about, right? I don't need to be the largest restoration company. I want to be the best restoration company, especially in our market. And that's what really I think has always driven me, was just that pure perfection. I mean, there were times that I'm like, I can make 100% of the people happy with my service. And boy, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago, I finally went, okay, maybe I can't do 100%. I better settle for about 98%. Because there were just a couple people I could not make happy no matter how hard I tried. And that was a wake up moment for me, because I think I was missing opportunity, by being so focused and laser focused on perfection, that I wasn't willing to allow some slop, if you will, kind of go through the company and work through some of those pains.
Did you view the company maybe as part of your life, as your culture, as your identity, or did you view the company as a means to a lifestyle that you wanted?
I think from where I came from and my background, I think the company was me. I used to always tell people no is not in my vocabulary. So if somebody said I couldn't do something, I would automatically just do it, and say that no is not my vocabulary. And I think it was interesting because the lifestyle kind of came with it. But it was never that. It was still the business was still Tom Laska, right? It was all my hard work and energy, put it into that for so many years, that I feel I walk around as, and is actually my true identity, is just that hard work and perseverance through the years.
When people get to know you, obviously you're very, very intelligent, you're a hard worker, you built a good business. And a lot of times when you find people who have those traits, but they're also very much a hands-on doer like you are, they tend to keep things closer to the vest. I don't want you to know what I don't know type stuff. And I want to make it look like I have all of the plates spinning in the air at the right way at the right time. But when you get to talk to you, you find out that you are very, very transparent. with everything in your life and your business. You're always willing to share, open up communication. And then when you talk to your employees, you find out they're the same way. It's almost like that transparency, that communication has become a core value to ICC. How does somebody who wants to be hands-on get comfortable with being willing to share, with willing to open up, with willing to help?
I think I think what I've learned over the years and probably learned with talking with a lot of people, right, is that you have to. If you want to evolve the business, you're going to have to take risk, right?
Mm-hmm.
I remember the old saying, right? A lot of people don't want to train their employees, right? So you don't train your employees and they leave you, or you train your employee, or you train your employees and they leave you. You don't train your employees and they stay forever.
Right, right.
And so I think I finally just, as you mature, right? As I matured, I was just like, well, I've got to give some of it to people. I've had some rough times. I've had some rough people in my company, like most, and you just work through that. But and that was kind of starting to open up and give more, give more things for people to do that you have to trust. And it is a very hard thing when I am that close to it, because I'm all about trust but verify.
Okay.
And now kind of as it evolved and I've gotten better people. My general manager's been amazing, and he's always kind of like, Tom, I hope we're on the same page. And I'm like, we're on the same page. You'll know when you leave the page. But I have to do that, right? It's the only way to try and continue to build the company beyond me. And that's what I've been doing kind of over the last couple of years is really try and take the Tom Laska away from it
Mm-hmm.
and make it more like a real company. I'm here behind it, but make it more a viable company.
So as you're building this company, you're building this team, you're building this culture, and early on you think, boy, I know what I'm doing. I've got all the answers. As you continue to grow the business, you're learning, okay, there's things that I got to get better at. I got to learn. I got to work through. What were some of those early challenges or those early mistakes? Was it getting hiring? Was it trusting the wrong people? Was it building out the operations part? What did you find to be the area that was the most difficult in mastering?
I think today it's finding the right people. I think that's been a big challenge. I've had a lot of people around me for so long, so I feel really blessed for the tenure that I have with our team. But operations for me is, again, it's like I can do it in my sleep. I think the biggest struggles that now today, right, is sales, is just that to me is still my largest angst. And I'm sure it is with a lot of company owners, is the sales piece, right? We've built a good brand over 36 years. The brand carries itself, but in order to continue to grow, it's trying to find that right person that understands our culture, and again, kind of isn't afraid to go out there and make mistakes and fail. Because and I don't know what it is. I don't know the hold back. That's still a big question in that I go through with my management team is why? Why is that piece the most difficult?
Hmm.
And boy, we're still looking for the right answer.
Well, let's explore the wrong answer. So you and I just came back from the Restoration Industry Association trade show. Got to spend some time down there with you, which I appreciate. And before the event, there was a 1-day pre-conference workshop on sales. And what we did is we lined up a dozen, 15 multi-million dollar producers, either sales or sales managers who have been very, very successful over the years in restoration. And they got up one at a time or in panels, and they had an hour to speak. And you saw, and we did great in that we didn't have them communicate with each other prior. So one rep might get up and say, hey, you got to do it this way. And then later in the day, someone else got up and said, no, you have to do it that way. And you can kind of think through which works best for you. And it seems like it went across really, really well. We didn't build hiring into any of the day hiring a sales rep. Reason being is because most of the people in the audience were sales reps. They weren't hiring managers. Yet every single Q&A from every presenter went to hiring. That was where
Mhm.
the audience needed to talk. So let's talk through hiring a sales rep right now. Where do you feel most people fall short? Where do you get tricked? Where are people missing to not find somebody that can come in and produce within a reasonable time?
That's a great question. Boy, we've been trying to peel back that onion for about the last 4 years.
You and everybody
Um,
else, buddy.
yes, I think one is right. One is a lot of salespeople want to sell the boss, right? That's always been kind of a thing out there, right? Hey, don't worry, that work's coming. I'm working really hard. It's coming. Just give me more time. I think that's a challenge. I think accountability is a challenge. I think today's work ethic is a challenge. And I really, of the sales person, at least from my personal experience, is finding a person who knows how to manage their time on their own. We have gone through several reps in our company, and it's always been they couldn't manage their time. If they said they were out working, they're not out working. They were out shopping or at the gym or sitting at home and doing everything but working. And so that's the one piece um, that we're still trying to figure out, right? I mean, it's still a challenge in our world because while we may look like we've gotten the perfect candidate, it still seems to fall short that whether they're afraid to go hear the word no, or what. It's like we all know, right? I mean, it's kind of sales 101, right? Knock on enough doors, talk to enough people, you will get work. And I think that piece is still the missing piece. I just eh, my personal belief is that everybody wants the paycheck, but they don't want to put in the pain to get to that paycheck. And so we're still figuring it out. It's still a real challenge in my world.
Big changes this year at the 2026 Violand Executive Summit. The program is now being held July 20th through the 22nd at the Eaglewood Resort and Spa in Chicago, Illinois. This program provides high impact leadership, sales, HR, and accounting education customized for small businesses in the trades. Choose between 12 different business courses and participate in dynamic, peer led roundtables discussing your biggest challenges and opportunities. Learn and network where the best of the best go to get better. Registration is open. Well, going just beyond the hiring a salesperson, if you're hiring a key decision maker in the business somewhere with it, what are you looking for? What are you looking for when you're hiring leaders and managers in your company?
Well, I think the biggest one, right, when I brought on operations manager, now promoted general manager, I think the biggest thing was, and I use one of the things I've been good at now is utilizing other people to help clear through the noise, right? So through that interview process, I actually go out to different people in the industry, and they're willing to do an interview as well, right, to get a little bit different perspective than what I have. um, but ultimately, like I told Jeremy, is I don't need a yes person. If I wanted a yes person, I'm already here and I'm at the desk. Uh,
Yeah, I like me.
so yeah, I want you to challenge me, right? Because it's the only way I think sometimes where if we say if I want to continue to keep growing, I need to be challenged, right? I didn't hire you just to agree with everything that I do. I want you to challenge me. I want you to tell me when I'm wrong, and then show action behind it, right? So that's really what I've looked for, and I think for some of my top positions, utilizing other people in the industry for
Mhm.
part of that interviewing process has really, really been helpful.
Have you found there are specific questions that you ask then that demonstrate if they truly have the ability to manage up?
Um,
Is it one
No,
of
that's
those
a tough
tell me
question.
a time? Is it a tell me a time type question? Maybe is there something that you look for in the personality that says, hey, they've got the gumption. They'll dig their heels in when they need to.
Yeah, I think it ultimately for me it's always been um, proof is in the pudding, right? Show up, do what you say you can do, and I always knew when I had success because we all know the restoration industry, right? The call always comes in at Friday at 4 o'clock. Everybody wants to go home. Everybody wants their weekends, and to watch the people that literally step up and just go and say, "I'm there. We'll take care of it." Boy, I tell you what, you can sit back and go, wow, okay, I really, then I try and look at what are those traits in those people? What is it? What does drive them to want to get out there and continue to work, when it's late at night or, we have to run second, third shifts to try and get something done. So to me, it's always been I think I know I've got the right person when I know that they're always willing to step up to the plate. And I think I think I can honestly say I think it's true in a lot of companies. I went through the phase where I had management not want to answer their phone and just was like, it's Friday, it's the weekend, I'm not taking that call. And you can't have a viable, successful business unless you've got your senior team right there with the people because again that's how I built it, so that's what I know, right? Back in the day I was right there with you, and when management is doing the same thing, I think that really helps kind of continue to build below them.
So as you build this culture out, then there's got to be some challenges because you have no problems stepping up and putting 80 hours in when you got to put 80 hours in as the owner of the business. And you're going to have some key business or key employees that are going to say, "Hey, I'm right there with you, boss. Let's link arms and let's go." Getting an entire staff to do that isn't fully realistic at times, and also being cognizant of burnout that's out there. This is a tough industry, and when you're losing your weekends and you're away from family and you're out sucking sewer water and you're wearing all the PE and the respirators and everything, that's a tough gig. There's easier ways to make a buck. So knowing that the cards are stacked against you in some ways and building out a company that can be there 24/7 when you need them to be, how do you work through culture? How do you start making certain that they really care about each other, they care about the company, they care about the work that's being done, and you're building a culture that attracts strong players?
I think for what I've seen is again as I've gone through all my pain phases just like other restoration companies have. I think the biggest thing that I always learned way back in the day, again, remember I was a doer, and so the people around me when I would hire them or we'd have conversations even when we're working, right, was always I think they could see that I had that I'm not quitting mentality. And I think that was just driven into my team, but I was really hard, right? I really expected a lot from my team, and I still do. Yet I feel that we're still fair. Again, remember I had a son, so I can give a situation right now where an on call came in. I think it might have been Friday at 4 o'clock, and I'm like, hey, why didn't you ask if that person can run down there because Jeremy was ready to go, and she was like, no, I have my kid tonight, and it's like perfect, okay, like you go take care of your child, we'll handle it. So I think it's just being flexible. I think we try and interject some fun into it, as kind of I talked about in RIA, I think in that Michelle's class, right, is we still try and do some fun things to keep it light when we can. I always went back to our holiday party. I remember, I know it was pre-COVID that all holiday parties were going away, and I was about ready to just say, okay, let's drop ours too, right? We'll simplify it. And it was interesting that I had some of my team members come to me and say, Tom, don't do that. Like these people are working all the time. This is their at least one opportunity in a year to cut loose, not worry about on call, right? Like I said, I don't care how hammered you get, how much fun you have, how late you stay up. You don't have to go anywhere and you can just have a lot of fun. And so we decided to keep it. And yeah, it's a big hit every year. So I think that's the biggest thing. But accountability for me is still huge, right? I think when we hold our people accountable, which is sometimes tough, I think in the long run it pays off because once again, I think you start to find the inner person of somebody that if they if they're not willing to contribute, they're really not right for this industry. And that's okay, right? There's other things they can do. We have found out the ones that are always there. They find out that when they show up or when they help another team member, right? It always seems to come around. So now they need help, and they've like, yeah, that person helped me back then. I'm going to help them now. And so that's what we continue to try and keep building on, and we unfortunately have to go through the people that just don't have that mentality. They're just not cut out for it.
Certain things I think like work ethic and accountability, being a good person, that stuff doesn't change. And you as a owner and a manager probably have always looked for that in your employees. But where has your leadership style changed as you've matured, as the business has matured, as the industry has matured?
I've tried to take a deep breath every now and then when things get challenging.
Okay.
They my old management team back in the day used to call me Tom Bomb, and so they they never knew when he was going to show up,
Okay.
and
I get it.
so so I learned to suppress that a little bit, and really again in the spirit of growth. If I don't allow my management team to manage, then why do I have a management team?
Hmm.
And so I think that's where I've evolved is I've tried to take a little bit deeper breath, step back, think about what just happened, and then make a little bit maybe cooler heads will prevail, right? Type of a decision. So I think that's really where I've changed probably over the last 10 years. Is just really tried to relax and let things happen, right? Bad things are going to happen. Let's try and minimize the risk of that, the cost of it, but bad things are going to happen, and you just got to work through it because it really is the only way we're going to continue to grow.
And kudos to you. I know ICC has been recognized as a top company in Minnesota to work for. So to have that demanding of a culture of you need to show up and be there every day and work hard, but yet people still want to work there, I think speaks volumes to what you guys are doing. And you're a family business, which and I grew up in a family business. That's a whole nother level of we'll call stuff that you have to deal with there. What do you see as the rewards and the challenges of building the company with the family involved?
I think there's a lot of challenges with family. I hear it a lot. I've had enough of it throughout the years. I mean, family has come and gone inside my business. But I also, if you're going to come on board, you have to understand that there's family and there's business. And when you walk through my doors, it's business, right? When you come through the company door, it's business. I don't care who you are. And you could, talk to Brenda about that because she knows very clearly, as my wife, that when I walk through those doors, it's all about work. And so I really try and keep that separation there. And once again, even in family, if it's not a good fit, it's time to go. And it's happened in the past over the years, right? But on the positive side of things, because I've done some restoration projects for some other companies that have a lot of family involved, and I think as long as you are holding them accountable to their position, I think it can work because I think if family's been around you long enough, I think they know how you beat and tick, right?
Okay.
And I think they'll understand that, yeah, Tom really is serious about this, and I should be really serious about it too. So, I think that's where we found the balance with it. Because again, then I think they kind of see that because they get it on the outside of the company, so they know that I don't quit, whether I'm at work or at home or doing something. I mean, I have to be doing something, and I think they continue to see that. And so I think they can bring some of that to the job site and to work, and continue to understand that this is how it happens. Hard work, perseverance.
Do you find so what you're saying is like when it comes to the business side, you got to draw the walls there with the family, and we're here to do a job. When you flip that, and now you're on the personal side, the family side of it, is that same wall there that business goes over here? Do you find that business sometimes takes over the family life and the holidays and the weekends?
I think we do a pretty good job at separating. I would say back in the day, it probably, spilled over into the personal side. Um, uh, just because again, it's who we are, right? As human beings. I mean, it's hard to just totally shut it off a 24/7 business. So, but I think on the family side, sometimes you can have more of a generalized conversation about it, right? It doesn't have to be as deep, but more and more, I really have tried to avoid it. I mean, I have my two girls in the business, and we were just together, and it was just like I really try to avoid talking about work, to really try and keep that separation there now as much as we can. If something light has to come up, like anything, of course we're going to discuss it. But other than that, I just try and get back and focus on family when we're there.
You got all the grandkids now. That's a little more important. Perspective has
Yes, one
changed.
100%. It has changed.
Well, I mean, when you look back, and I don't know if we said what year you started the company, but you've had it for a couple decades now. And you look at all of the 80, 90, 100-hour work weeks that you put in, and you think about all of the practices and the recitals and all the other stuff that you missed along the way and the stress that you brought on to your life. Do you think were the sacrifices required to build the company? Would you say it was worth it?
100%. In my opinion, 100%. I think it's a real fallacy out there that people think they can have everything. They can have family, they can have money, they can don't have to work very hard. I think maybe there's a few people out there, but I think if you really took a deep dive into some of the most successful people in our world, they've given up something to get there. They just have, and I know that for a fact.
Is there something you would have done differently?
Great question. No, I don't think so. I I I don't think for my situation I could have done anything differently. Um, so no, for me, no. And I think whatever path people choose to take, I think you stick with it, right? And you follow it through. And once again, I've been very rewarded. I've worked my butt off. I get a lot of flack in the industry for because I like to travel a lot now, and and everybody says I want the Tom Laska lifestyle, and I always want to just say, but you don't realize the first 15 years and everything that I gave up, right? I mean, even at Christmas, if a call came in, I was gone, and my mom's like, "Tell them that you'll be there tomorrow." I go, "You don't tell your clients you're going to be there tomorrow. I'll see you later. Enjoy Christmas," right? So no, I don't think I would have done anything differently. I wish maybe I would have, maybe the only thing differently would have been reached out to a few more people in my industry at the time and maybe had a little bit more growth earlier on. But other than that, no. I've had a very blessed life. I have a wonderful family. I have grandkids. And everybody's healthy. And I think a lot of people forget about those real important things.
I think that's a great transition. I think because I want to start going into your involvement in the industry. You've been involved with different organizations. The Restoration Industry Association sticks out right there. So go into detail on why industry involvement has mattered to you.
I was, that's a great question. I was I spent all my years working, being by myself, just probably always taking the hard road, right? I was always walking around with the pickaxe and the shovel trying to pave a new road, right? Um, and so I finally hit a spot too where I said, could I be more successful? Of course I could. Um, am I happy where I'm at? Yeah, I'm happy where I'm at. I make a lot of people have good lives too inside my organization because I think of them all the time. Um, and getting involved, I made that conscious decision that says it's time for me to give back. I have to give back. We have to become better restorers in today's environment. There's so many new challenges. I think the restoration industry has kind of done it on its own of making themselves look like the bad person and people and companies and everything else, right? So we've made the bed. Now I really, my goal is to try and change the sheets out of that bed, right?
Mm.
And the only way to do that is get involved, give back some of these 36 years of what I've been doing back so other people um, don't maybe have to make the mistakes I made or don't have to work as hard, but understand the implications of every decision they make.
So when you look at the industry then as a whole, besides finding good people, and I can tell you right now that that is the number one issue, regardless of what you hear on Facebook or read on Facebook about anything else going on. Number one issue in the industry right now is finding good people, and it's not even close. So take that one off the plate. So besides labor shortages, what's concerning you the most right now with the restoration industry as you move forward and knowing that your kids are going to get ready here to hopefully take the business over and continue to expand within the industry?
Hopefully, we're not too late. I really feel that our industry has to be cleaned up. I feel our industry has to come together as the independent restorers if we're going to go anywhere and continue to grow. And it's a great space. I'm not negative about the space.
Mhm.
Um, what's concerning is that we're still a small voice in a large industry. We're still fragmented. And I think if we can continue to work together and do the right thing, right, through transparency, through communication, stop the blame game and let's figure out what it takes. I think there's still challenges. I'm not
Mhm.
saying it's easy, but I'm still optimistic, right? That I've seen small inroads where we might be communicating better with the carrier, the check writer. Um, and I think that's always going to be a challenge. I mean, that is every one of those carriers are like the Titanic, and you don't just turn them around overnight. It could take 10 years to turn them around. And so that's where I just felt being a little more involved, to give back, to try and educate, to try and give some of my experiences, to try and share what works for me. We talked kind of, I think maybe before we started here, was just like collecting money. I mean, we've worked very hard and we say we're really good at collecting money. And it's not an easy thing necessarily, but we've worked hard at it. And if I can share back what we do to other people, because we know cash flow is important, then that's what I hope to do. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what I hope to do. What little bit Tom Laska can do for this industry, I want to give it my all if I can.
So flip the coin over now, and somebody comes up to you, a 20-year-old comes up to you and says, "Hey, I like working my hands. I want to get involved in the trades. I'm trying to figure out what trade I really want to get into." What is it about the restoration industry? How do you sell them that that's the place to go?
Well, I think if the person has the inner person of themselves, right? I think the restoration industry has so much satisfaction to give back to people as a human being, right? When you are out there on somebody's worst day and you can help them, and I mean, these are facts, right? I mean, we hit another person in our community, had a fire and it was about 5 in the morning, and when Brenda and I showed up, she's out in her nightgown and her slippers and crying, running to Brenda. um and so grateful that we were there and we could help. That sometimes means more than the job itself, right? And so if somebody young is coming in, it's really about, you have to look yourself in the mirror and say, it's going to be a lot of hard work, but boy, it should be really, really damn rewarding at the end of the day when you see how you brought somebody's worst day back to a very good day, and back to some normalcy. That's been huge for me, and I think it's been huge for our team. Right? I still think that's a cultural build. Is when they understand that they are really changing people's lives by putting back their property. That's huge.
Let's end it. One last question for you. You've seen a lot of restoration companies come and go over the years. What do you think really separates the restoration companies that survive from the ones that don't?
I think I think the separation is real. My opinion would be that the restorations that pop up are usually, somebody left a company. I think a lot of people feel that it's really easy to run a restoration company and there's just a lot of money you can make, right? I think those are the only two things they see. And so, of the ones we've seen pop up in our area, we're a defector from another company. They start up, they think it's really easy. They don't understand the grit you have to go through. And I think the number one is yeah, they tend to make a lot of money up front, and lo and behold, they forget to pay their taxes. And then when the tax man comes, all of a sudden, they're staring down a really big bill. We've seen a lot of companies go out of business because of that. So
Money
again,
matters.
I think they're only seeing the easy side. They're not seeing the grit side of it.
Yeah, awesome. Well, Tom, thank you very much. Appreciate you coming on, sharing some wisdom with the audience and letting them know what's made you successful and things you've learned along the way. Obviously, you built a great business. I know you'll be at some of the shows coming up here. You're always at the Cotality show. I know you're at the RIA show. Is there any other place people can see you if they want to sit down and pick your brain a little bit?
Probably not. I've kind of scaled back on the shows now with my grandkids, so I'm
Grandkids
trying
will
to
do
put
that.
family first now. If I do, I might end up at one just by pure one of the committee meetings. I tend to try and be committed. So there's a possibility I might be at Contractor Connection in Vegas this year for a meeting. So I'd be around back then. But as I've always told people through our industry, if you need something you need to talk, call me. I'm here. I'll definitely make the time for them.
Well, we appreciate it. Thanks, Tom. And we appreciate the audience for listening. Those good podcasters tell you to like and comment and subscribe and push all the buttons. So if you can do that, that would be fantastic. And we'll see you again soon. Thanks, Tom. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.